Before I get into today's main topic, some breaking news just happened. The Carolina Panthers just traded up to the first overall pick. They traded away a couple of second round picks, a couple of first round picks, and DJ Moore. Really quick thoughts. Really good trade for the Bears. They get a lot of draft compensation because they're likely to draft a quarterback anyways. They get a draft still another elite player to help Justin Fields, and they got his number one weapon in DJ Moore. For Carolina, it will just really depend on how they can develop whoever they draft. If that's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, maybe Will Levis. Not really sure. They can honestly go either of those four quarterbacks. Who really knows with that? But on Monday, I'm for sure gonna do a reaction to other trades that happened because I know there was other transactions. To be more specific, a lot of players also getting released from the video I made a couple days ago. Without further ado, let's get into the main topic today.
He throws to the end zone. Davis 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good. Crosby in on goal. Backhander. He scores. And good. 49ers win it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Loki Sports Show. Today, I want to do something just a little bit different. Kind of go back to the tier list maker, just so I can talk about the NBA kind of picture and what's going on with that. Just because, hold up, let me make sure this looks good. That's fine. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Loki Sports Show. Today, we're going to be doing a tier list for the NBA, just because we're really in the final stretch of the last regular season games. The season ends in less than a month now. It ends on April 9th, I believe. So, obviously, a lot of teams still trying to make playing spots, trying to make the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. Only a couple teams are actually officially eliminated, which means it's going to be pretty tight because I know, like, from seeds 8 through 12 in the West, it's super compact, and obviously this is gonna be the post deadline kind of rankings because a lot of teams have obviously changed. I kind of talked about winners and losers, but now that we have had a couple weeks to kind of look at what they're looking like actually in practice, I can kind of make some little bit more accurate judgments. So my first team would be the Sixers. I'm gonna put them in the finals tier just because I already have them in the finals tier. I thought they got a little bit better during the trade deadline. I just feel James Harden, Joel Embiid, and even to an extent, Tyrese Maxey are really good combination, especially to have in the playoffs. Assuming everything's healthy, I think they can honestly really make a good run. Prior to the conference finals, I can really easily say that. And if things kind of break right for them, I can see them making the finals just because they have enough firepower, and they're top 10 in both offense and defense. So I think that can really push them over the edge against some of the other teams. Even if I don't think they're the best team in the East, I think if a matchup happens that they like or another team kind of gets eliminated early, they can make a run. Rockets, they're in the sweepstakes, or for Wembanyama, they're already eliminated. I'm not going to put too much time on them. Hawks are a playing team. The DeJounte Murray, Trae Young kind of thing never really panned out at the way they thought it would. I know they got Sadiq Bey, and I believe but they still haven't moved John Collins, so we will have to see about that. Sadiq Bey, to his credit, has been good for them. I forgot what his exact shooting splits are, but I know he was on fire at one point, shooting around 50% from three when he was a Hawk. So at least when he first started. So I think that they're at least for sure a playing team, kind of at the top of that kind of category. Bulls, I think, just because they didn't make any moves, but they're still not as bad as these Wemby teams, like the Wemby sweepstakes teams. So I'm gonna have to put them in the playing tier, but they're really not a good team at all. Blazers, same thing, unfortunately. It's just obviously I know they traded for Matisse Thybulle, and he's been for sure a plus for them, but the only thing is, even despite some of the trade deadline moves, they're really just getting carried by Dame right now. Damian Lillard has been averaging 40 for the last couple of games or so. The last stretch of games or so, he literally had a 71-point game. At one point, he had for the over/under, it was literally at 39.5, which is the highest for any player in NBA history when they started doing over/under. So you know for a fact he's been on absolute tear. But they're kind of going back to that. Unfortunately, his help has not really been there. I know Anthony Simons is coming back, but I'm gonna have to put them in the kind of playing tier. Pacers, I'll just kind of put them same thing. They're a lot younger team, but they're a step above kind of like the Wemby teams. But especially after the trade deadline, they're gonna be kind of chilling towards the bottom of the play. They could, if things break their way, they can make it, but no one's really counting on that. Thunder are a team that no one's giving them a lot of credit for, just because They're a very young team, especially with Shea, Josh Giddey, and I know Jalen Williams. And I know a couple Jalen Williams, I believe, because I get kind of gets confusing. But a lot of the young talent has really been emerging recently, so that's one thing you have to love to see. And if they get Chet Holmgren back, and if they get another really good pick, they can be really scary, especially if another year of that young core kind of developing. But obviously they're still young, so they're not going to be kind of in the niche playoff race, but they're still in the kind of playing race, especially in the loaded West. And the Pelicans, they kind of fell off hard. I don't think they're quite a playing kind of team yet, because I know they're still, I believe, kind of in that lower like 7th, 8th kind of seed. The standings change like every day so much in the West, but it's just there's no injury prone. That's the thing. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt because over the playing teams, just because if Zion comes back, Brandon Ingram, especially for the playoffs, that can be a really deadly team to see in the series. The only thing is those guys are just not healthy right now. Zion Williamson has an other setback, unfortunately, so that's why normally I'd see them as contenders just because of how things are kind of cracking out. I'm gonna have to put them in the niche kind of playoff race. Celtics, they're in the finals conversation. I think they still have one of the best records in the East in the whole NBA. The only thing is the last couple of games they've shown a little bit of cracks. They can't. The last couple of games, I'm mainly talking about Nets, Knicks, those two games in particular. They had big leads at one point, and then they were just not able to kind of seal the deal. And then, the Nets game, they blew a 28-point lead. The Knicks game, they were up big. And then also the Cavs game, they were up big. Grant Williams missed the 2 free throws he said he'd make, and then they lost that game in overtime. So we're starting to see a little bit of cracks of how, especially even guys like Jason Tatum, when when another team kind of really rallies back, they're not too good at that right now. But obviously, that's just the last couple games. Teams kind of slide, and then they know they're going to make the playoffs for sure. And I don't think their players are as motivated to win these kind of later regular season games. But that's something you want to keep in mind. So I'm not going to say they're going to drop down a tier or whatever, but that's one thing you really want to keep in mind, the Boston Celtics. I'd say the Heat are kind of for sure in the niche playoff category. They're not as bad as I thought they would be, but they're just slightly above the playing teams, but their lack of depth, kind of lack of like a true center and a lot of big men, no big moves. I kind of had to kind of put them in the niche playoff team. Spurs, they're already eliminated. Wemby sweepstakes. I'm not going to really talk too much about that. I'm going to put Grizzlies still in contenders, even without John Morant, Steven Adams, and Brendan Clark. They're still kind of tagging along so far. They're kind of still coasting along. The only thing is, obviously, John Morant has his whole kind of situation with whatever happened there. And if he does come back, like obviously, I still think they're really solid contenders. Put them in the higher echelon of contenders. But losing Brendan Clark sucks. Steven Adams really needs to come back soon because he led the league at one point in offensive rebounds. He's a beast on that, especially getting those rebounds. So that's one thing they really would want back. But JJJ, still a defensive beast. So I'm still going to put them in the contenders tier because they're still better than kind of like the niche playoff teams and the playing teams. Jazz, let me move these a little bit. They're still in the kind of playing race. Obviously, I think Larry Markkanen's kind of cooled down recently. Well, I don't really see too much about their race, but they're still in the thick of it. I know, like the whole as I mentioned before, 8 through 12 seeds are just jam packed in the West, so they're still in the thick of the playing race. I'm gonna give the Raptors a bit of credit. I didn't really understand their moves at the trade deadline, especially when they're actually getting players. They got Jakob Poeltl, but I have to give him credit. Jakob Poeltl has been really good as a Raptor. He's been able to get a lot of those boards. He's like a really solid interior defensive presence, because I know the Raptors were really kind of a team that had like 5 kind of wings, but when that was really working out, they kind of went for more traditional big, and it's been working out a lot more. Obviously, I don't think they're gonna make themselves like a niche playoff team or a contender or anything like that, but something you really want to kind of keep in mind with the Toronto Raptors. Honestly, I thought they would be kind of towards the lower end of the playing race, but because of that move, I put them at the kind of top part of it. Hornets, Wemby sweepstakes, nothing really to see here. Warriors, I'm going to put in contenders. They're still the defending champions. Even if their road record completely sucks, and even with Steph, they kind of have like a really shaky record, but at the same time, they have enough depth to kind of coast along without Steph, so I can really see them making a run. As it's just hard to kind of put the Warriors in a lower tier, even if obviously I know seeding's changing so much, but at the same time, it's one of those deals where the Warriors have not lost a playoff series in the West since like 2014. So if they make the playoffs, no matter what seed, I think they're still gonna be super scary to play just because how much experience their big three has. Knicks were a very, very hard team to rank. So when I was kind of going over this, I'm gonna put them in contenders. Yeah. So the thing with the Knicks is that their team has really come together. Emmanuel quickly had a beastly game against the Celtics. He played a ton of minutes. That was kind of his bit of a breakout game for him. Julius Randle not missed a single game. Got to give him a lot of credit for not load managing or being injured. I think that's still the main thing. When Jalen Brunson gets back, I'm not sure if he's been back the last couple of games because I know he's missed a few. Jalen Brunson really changed this team, and I think that contract, people were kind of saying it's an overpay. I understand where they're coming from then, especially in free agency. But now that we've seen what he's looking like in the Knicks, where he's averaging like 27 points per game last time I checked, he's a beast. He can obviously he's good at shooting. He really gets his teammates involved. He's exactly what the New Knicks have been begging for at point guard, and he's really changed his team around. I'm gonna put them in contenders. Pistons won't be sweepstakes. Lakers, I'm gonna put them in the niche kind of playoff race because I remember at one point I was really kind of down on them, but have to give Rob Pelinka where credit's due. Getting Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba for basically 3 players he didn't play as in obviously he played Patrick Beverly, but he was not playing GTA, Damian Jones, and I believe there's one more player I'm forgetting right now. But of course they also traded Russell Westbrook, who's not been a plus asset for them. So getting especially Jared Vanderbilt. I wasn't really familiar with his game as the Shaq meme kind of goes along, but he's been just a monster for the Lakers. He can really just defend any position. He can defend their best player. The Lakers have not had that in a very long time, and because AD is more of a kind of like a rim protector, like more of an interior guy, Jared Vanderbilt was just locking. He put Luka in chains, kind of locking him up. So having Jared Vanderbilt really helps their defense a lot. And they have been the best defense, I believe, since the trade deadline. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell's been hurt and LeBron James have been hurt, but they're still been winning games even without them. So once they have those two back, that's going to be a really big deal to see. Also, I know Bamba got hurt from the games he has played. Really good defensively, and he's going to take too much shots, but he can really space the floor because he mainly takes 3-pointers with the Lakers. And that's what we love to see. I know Malik Beasley has his... It's kind of hard to gauge Malik Beasley just because... You'll have, like, the Warrior game, the first game he had against the Warriors, he just went off, like, 7 out of 11 from 3-point range. He had, like, 27 points, I believe. Just, he was just running it from 3, but some other games, it can be really rough. Because that's the thing. He has above average 3-point shooting splits. It's just, some games he will absolutely pop off and hit almost every shot. Other games, it's a little bit worrying sometimes. So, I think because of those trade deadline moves, that really moves them up to the niche playoff race. Also, D'Angelo Russell as like a legit point guard as well. And then Dennis Schroeder has been stepping up even with D'Angelo Russell out. So, niche playoff race for sure. I had to put them there. Even if their seeding right now is a little iffy, they're only 2 games back behind the 5th seed. Nuggets, I'm still putting them in the finals tier. And the last couple of games have been a little bit, I guess, worrying. Jokic has not had his best game the last couple of games, but I just think I kind of with the Celtics. I think at this point they're just coasting along. They know they're going to get a super high seed. They know they're basically a lock for the playoffs. And I can't really blame the players for kind of losing focus just because they're probably tired now. So I'm going to put them in the finals here. Sac, I'm putting them in content. Let me kind of move this around a little bit. This is tough, but I'm going to put Sac above Golden State Warriors in these power rankings just because Sacramento has been really, really good. They're the number 2 seed in the West right now. And they had like the best offensive rating out of any NBA team ever so far. And just I've seen a couple of thinking basketball videos, a couple of videos kind of explaining their offense, but that Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox pick and roll, all those shooters is just so deadly. Almost everyone can shoot, and that helps De'Aaron Fox because he's so quick, he's so athletic, especially getting to the basket. And having Domantas Sabonis was a monster rebounder. I believe he's leading the league in rebounds, if I remember correctly. That's a team I kind of don't want to mess with, especially if you see them in the playoffs. that De'Aaron Fox, the Sabonis pick and roll can just really wear you out. And that's the thing with Sac is just that the way they play the game is really interesting, just because it's just really interesting to see how they turn their whole franchise around so quickly. But a big part of why is just because they're able to play at they. I know most of the time it's the defensive teams that kind of impact on how you play a game, if you're gonna play it slow, fast. But the Kings, with their really blistering offense, determine on how you're gonna play the game, and that kind of just messes with a lot of teams' rhythms. So you gotta really be careful for Sacramento. If you see them in the playoffs, even if they're not as experienced as some of these other teams are, they're young, they're super hungry, and they're begging. They're gonna scrape and claw to win their first playoff series in like, oh my god, like 18 years. So don't mess with Sacramento. They're gonna be a really tough team to play in the playoffs. Brooklyn, right now I think they're still kind of coasting off their standings from when they had KD, Kyrie, but as we all know, they lost both of them. They got back a bunch of wings and a bunch of picks, but it's just not really working out for them. So I'll kind of put them in the playing team because I can still kind of see them being around in that area. Just the last couple of games have been really brutal losses, so one thing you want to keep in mind. Clippers, I think they're actually really neck and neck with the Lakers. They came in the season starting off a lot more depth, but I understand they let go of Reggie Jackson. They let go of also John Wall, but I know they got back Eric Gordon, who's been kind of iffy for them. They got Russell Westbrook from it's not waivers, but they signed him after the Lakers traded him away to the Utah Jazz, and then he got bought out. He went to the Clippers. The only thing is they've had an abysmal record with Russell Westbrook at the helm, just because, as we all know, Russell Westbrook sometimes he can be kind of an awkward fit. But I don't think a lot of those losses are on Russ as much as people would want to kind of make him out to be. Obviously, there was one kind of turnover he had in one of those games with Paul George, but some of the other games were just like the Sacramento 2 overtime loss. That was just kind of like a crazy thing entirely. Some of the ones Paul George has played really bad as well. Obviously, I'm not gonna say Russ is well fault, but people kind of scapegoat Russ fairly or not fairly. But I would die to see a Lakers Clippers playing game. That would be so crazy. The reactions, the media, that would be a fun game to watch, because I know both those teams are really hating each other. Most Lakers fans hate Clippers more than Celtics now, so you know it's getting really heated with these two fan bases. So I really want to see how that goes. Suns, the Suns over the Warriors. So my main thing would just be, I know Kevin Durant sprained his ankle the other day when he was doing warm-ups, but the only thing is, if Kevin Durant is healthy and he's ready to go for the playoffs, oh boy, that's gonna be crazy. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, I know CP3 has kind of fallen off, but still having Devin Booker as a legit number 2 really puts him on some mismatches, and Kevin Durant is literally Kevin Durant. And people might kind of argue against me, or they'll kind of push back saying, well, Kevin Durant can't carry a team. The only thing is, I would kind of disagree. Remember the Bucks series a couple years ago? Once Harden and Kyrie were out, he basically took that team, that Milwaukee Bucks team who won the finals, to 7 games basically by himself. I know James Harden played a couple of those games, but he was playing on literally like a grade 3 hamstring strain. Like he literally could not even run to do a fast break. So it was really Kevin Durant. And if Kevin Durant has Devin Booker and he has a couple of all the other Suns weapons, oh boy, that can be a really scary team if, of course, they're fully healthy. Wizards, I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit. Kyle Kuzma has been playing some pretty good games recently. Aren't doing there anything crazy, but I'll put them kind of in the playing tier. Cavs are very interesting because lately they've kind of had a little bit of a run against the Celtics, who I'd consider the second best team in the East. So if that can be a really interesting playoff series where we can see the Celtics maybe kind of having a little bit of a mismatch early in the playoffs, more than people kind of might think they might be out to be. But I would kind of put them here. I think Donovan Mitchell, they still have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, super underrated. I might make a video about him. He's really underrated. But I can see them. I don't think they'll get to like the conference finals or anything like that, but I can for sure see them winning a playoff series. Maybe they can even win like a second round series. Honestly, they have enough kind of firepower to do so, and they're still a relatively kind of young team. It's kind of hard, but if they get like a real small forward too, and they can be really, really deadly. Because I know Isaac Okoro is really iffy. But next team, the Bucks. I'd say they've kind of overtaken the Celtics as the best team in the entirety of the NBA right now. My main reason for that would just be Giannis has not played a lot of games recently. I know he's been kind of in and out of the lineup. Same thing with Chris Middleton. But the Bucks keep freaking winning, man. I gotta give them credit. It just doesn't matter who they have in the lineup. There's a really well-rounded squad. I know they got Goran Dragic recently, and they got Jay Crowder, who's kind of like their new PJ Tucker when they won the chip a couple years ago. So that's one thing you really want to consider with the Milwaukee Bucks. I guess my only concern would just be in the playoffs if they don't have healthy Chris, like Chris who's on fire, or healthy Giannis. That can be a bit of a concern. But other than that, Drew Holiday has been an absolute beast this season, especially when Chris and Giannis are kind of out of the lineup. So they're a very, very scary team. And anyone who thinks they can handle them in the playoff series, they got to check themselves, because there's one team I think the Bucks can win the East and they can win the finals. It's that simple at that point. I don't know who they would meet, and from the West, because the West is so crazy right now. Like, we can have like some legit teams as like an AFC in the West. The East is a little bit more top heavy, but still, I can legit see the Bucks winning the chip. So really, I'm really, really high on them. They're my number one team right now. Mavs. Oh, very interesting. Super interesting team, actually. I'm gonna put them in contenders. They have a questionable amount of depth. The only thing is they have Luka and Kyrie, and it obviously take a couple games for them to gel, because it was very obvious that Kyrie had to kind of adjust, or to be more specific, a lot of the Mavericks had to adjust to playing with Kyrie, because he plays. It's really weird because Luka and Kyrie are both great isolation scorers, but Luka kind of plays a lot slower and more methodical than Kyrie Irving does, while Kyrie Irving is a lot more he's for sure a lot more flashy, especially with his dribble moves. He's a wizard with the ball, we all know that. And he plays a lot faster, especially when he goes, he tries to finish at the rim. Luka plays a lot more slower to kind of draw fouls. Kyrie will just kind of do anything kind of finish properly without having to kind of rely on free throws, especially in my kind of analysis, especially when I saw them play against the 76ers a couple weeks ago. So, the only thing is, obviously, as I mentioned before, the lack of depth. But if Luka and Kyrie can catch fire, like, they both can drop like 40 a game by themselves. So that's like 80 points. Their role players don't even have to do too much. The only thing is, in the playoffs, obviously other teams are going to hone in on that. So we'll really have to see what they can do. But I'm really excited to see what this team can do in the playoffs. Wolves, they're underrated, kind of niche playoff team. Especially Anthony Edwards has been really taking another jump. For a first overall pick, he's been deadly quiet. The lack of media coverage is kind of weird. Obviously, they play in Minnesota. Minnesota is not as exciting as LA or Miami or New York or whatever, but gotta give credit where credit's due. Anthony Edwards is turning out to be exactly why he was the number one overall pick. He's justifying that pick really well. The only thing is, obviously, we have to kind of see in how they'll handle. Obviously, they lost a bunch of depth that they had last year for the last playoff run they had. So we'll have to really see about that. But Rudy, and especially with Rudy Gobert, we all know that in the playoffs he can be, I don't want to say a liability, but when teams have more time to adjust to him, they can really put him in some really uncomfortable situations, because Rudy Gobert is an absolutely still elite rim protector. If you try to score on in the rim, he's gonna deny you for sure. The only problem is if you have like a 5-out lineup, or like a 5-guard kind of lineup where he has to guard the perimeter player instead of guarding the paint, that can get really ugly. We've seen it multiple times. You saw it last year with the Jazz, where Jalen Brunson and that small ball Mavs lineup, even without Luka, I believe, were just absolutely cooking the Jazz. And then a couple years ago, we saw how Ty Lue just completely took the rails off the Jazz when he had that 4-guard lineup with like elite Markieff Morris as the center. So he had a bunch of spacing, and Rudy Gobert was really not able to do too much. That's when Terrence Mann just dropped like 40 points in the playoffs, just because it's not really fair that Rudy Gobert has to guard, especially in Utah, to guard those perimeter players. And I do give Minnesota some credit. I believe their perimeter defense is better than what the Jazz had, but we'll really have to see what Rudy Gobert can do, especially in the new system, where I don't think having the guards they have in Minnesota as defensively unreliable as they had in Utah. So we really have to see about that actually. Magic, unfortunately, I don't have as much analysis as some of these other teams, but Wemby sweepstakes. I kind of just put these teams in whatever order. In reality, I kind of put them more like this. I forgot to mention Detroit got James Wiseman, but they're still unfortunately losing games. But yes, it's kind of what it's looking like right now. I know I'm a lot more higher on Sacramento than I was last time I did this video, but I think Sacramento's been making a really good push. I have to give them a lot of credit. They're a really scary team. Bucks, super scary team as well. Other than that, I kind of had the Celtics dropping down a little bit, but other than that, also had the Pelicans drop just because we all know they've been hurt. Nets dropped big time as well. Lakers are a big riser, but if you guys like more kind of laid back content like this, just tier list. If you want to see a tier list for maybe like an NFL offseason moves or anything like that, winners, losers so far, make sure to comment down below, like and subscribe, the whole kind of jazz, and I'll talk to you guys later.